I didn't get onto the whole Yeti controversy or non-controversy as the case may be. I'm just not big into owning overpriced drinkware. I wouldn't even be having this if someone didn't give it to me, and it's not a Yeti, it's an Orca. Perfect for my adult beverage of the weekend right here. But it just comes to prove that not every gun owner jumps on every talking point or every fad that comes along. Yeah, a lot of gun control advocates like to throw around the whole civilized canard against gun owners, as if gun ownership somehow is not civilized, except that they're never able to define or explain exactly what they mean by civilized. Does it have to do with education? Well, I tend to be more educated than most of them. Does it have to do with literacy? I read from more languages than practically all of them. Does it have to do with following laws? Well, my legal record is ultra clean except for a handful of traffic violations, and most of those happened before I was a gun owner. So what is the whole civilized thing about? Obviously, it's a very lame attempt to try to impugn our character. Except that if character is demonstrated through action, then really that's a very weak argument for gun control advocates to make against us. 99.7% of us don't kill, don't injure, don't do any of the sort of misdeeds that gun control advocates are constantly soiling their shorts over. Furthermore, we have state testimony about our character with every background check that we pass, and we pass them quite regularly through new gun purchases, through transfers, through the background checks we subject ourselves to get a concealed carry permit. We have state testimony of our character. Gun control advocates, for the most part, do not. Who's more trustworthy with guns? Not for me to say. The aims of gun control advocates have little to do with gun safety. Were that really the case, they would be more active in teaching the proper way to safely handle firearms. But to this day, none of them have a program that do this sort of thing. The NRA does. No, their aims are gun prohibition, which is to say the absolute ban of the civilian ownership of guns in the general population, period. And after all, if we take guns out of everyone's hands, this country would be a safer place, right? Except they never really consider the defensive value of guns at all. In fact, they try to either cover up or downplay any of these studies that run counter to gun control orthodoxy. For example, that study that was done by the CDC that was recently uncovered that underscored CLEC's findings from the 1990s about defensive gun uses. 2.5 million crimes averted. Now, let's say, just for the sake of argument, that gun control advocates had their way and their visions of gun control utopia became reality. What would happen to those 2.5 million crimes? Would they just evaporate? No. Chances are these crimes would be added to the national tally of crimes that happen every year. We're talking like a few million to hundreds of thousands of crimes, injuries, deaths even. And it's happened before. The UK, for example, saw an increase in crimes after its gun bans. In England and Wales, in Ireland, and it only started coming down after they increased the police force, including specially armed units. Here in the States, gun control accompanied increases with crime, with the exception of the early 90s, where the proliferation of right to carry laws also accompanied a dramatic decrease in gun-related crime. In the cases of DC and Chicago, increases in murders happened after their gun control measures were implemented. So it's very doubtful that we would be better off with increased gun control measures. Moms Demand Action seems to want to renew its wailing over concealed carry reciprocity. They aren't trained the same! True.
That is true.
But here's what's missing. The majority of states, I would say at least 3/4 of them, already have reciprocity agreements between themselves. And so far, the differences in training have not proven to be problematic. I very seriously doubt it would be a problem if national reciprocity were enacted. Ruski! Did you hear how the NRA admitted to taking money from Russia? True.
That is also true.
But here's what's missing. Did you also hear how it amounted to the princely sum of $2,500, consisting of memberships and magazine subscriptions, including those of Americans who just happen to be living in Russia?
Боже мой.
Ooh, state. While prohibitionists like to call us gun owners gun fetishists, they fail to recognize their own fetish for the state. As Stefan Molyneux put it, they're not really anti-gun. They just want those guns to be in the hands of agents of the state which they trust. The thing of it is, the state that they trust so much with their guns, trust me with mine. I have discovered that I am an amateur agnotologist. Agnotology is the study of ignorance and how it is proliferated within a culture. In my case, I study the ignorance that is proliferated among hoplophobes. I am a hoplophobe agnotologist. That happens after you observe gun control behavior over about 20 years. And thus concludes this salvo of random thoughts. Two things I want to relate to you. Number one, this awesome shirt that a relative sent to me. The design features the state flag of all 50 states right here. Obviously, since I live in Alaska, he chose Alaska, and it worked well. Number two, the next weekend is going to be our 7th inning stretch, so there will be no video more than likely unless the hoplophobes do something very stupid, which is highly likely. So, shoot straight, cover your six, and remember, truth is never gun control's ally.